What is a scary, unsettling fact about you? I killed someone in self-defense, went through the entire court process, with his family sobbing hysterically, and never felt a single emotion about it, and I'm a pretty emotional guy. People process things differently. Given that this was self-defense, I don't think it's fair to judge you for feeling nothing. Could be your mind's defense mechanism, to protect you from a traumatic situation. This is a weird one, but I promise you, no bullshit. I had a metal screw/bolt roughly 1.5 inches long, stuck in my right lung, from age 2 to 17. I must have put it in my mouth as a toddler and it got there somehow. Anyway, the unsettling bit is, that I always knew there was something seriously wrong with my body, because my whole life, I would have instances, in which I coughed uncontrollably, many times coughing up blood. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. But I never told anyone. Dad was neglectful and Mom was always working, so, it was relatively easy to hide. If it happened at school, I'd excuse myself to the restroom until it stopped. No one ever showed concern those 15 years, so, I guess I kept it to myself well enough. I never told anyone, because even as a small child, I was very unhappy with life, and wanted it to be over. I guess I figured my mystery illness would get me eventually, so I kept it a secret, so I wouldn't get treated. It all came to a head at 17, when playing ball at the park with my parents, siblings, and some friends. I got a decent hit, and ran around the bases, when I started coughing. After sitting back down I tried to hold it in but I couldn't. And this time it was too bloody to hide, and no bathroom to go to. So my step-uncle noticed after a minute or two, everyone is crowded around me while I'm coughing up a shitload of blood in and around a trash can. My little brother told me after that they actually sent guys in hazmat suits to clean it up, because they didn't know if whatever was wrong with me was contagious. But anyway, got to the hospital, got the x-ray, which showed the screw lit up like Christmas imposed over my rib cage. Dr. Guy just went, "Well, there's your problem." I guess he was trying to lighten the mood, since everyone was understandably freaking the F out. 2 weeks of surgery, 3 total, and it was out. I still have breathing issues, but the cough is gone now. I made the screw into a necklace, which I wear sometimes, because I find it oddly comforting to be reminded of my own mortality. I know that's weird, but it's just sort of how I am all things considered. I never told my family. I knew there was something wrong with me, because telling them would mean admitting to them that I wanted to die the whole time. I still struggle with mental health crap for this and many, many other reasons I won't get into, but things are a lot easier than they used to be. But anyway, if you actually took the time to read about my weird little life, I appreciate your time, and hope your day is pleasant. Edit, fix some typos. Thank you all for your kind words. A few asked for a picture, so here you are. Yes, it was that shiny when it came out too. Stainless steel is properly named apparently. Not sure if it's scary. But my dad OD'd on heroin and died. I probably could have saved him. I went downstairs at like 1 a.m. to get a drink, and saw the bathroom door closed with the light on. I thought about pounding on the door to scare him, which is something I would do to mess with him. I walked up to the door, went to knock on it, but thought to myself, nah, don't mess with him. And I walked away. Woke up later, finding out he was dead from an OD. I have unusually good night vision, extra cones/rods, I forget which is for low light, which means I walk around in what other people consider complete darkness, able to see just fine. Add on to that, I'm 6 feet 10 inches and very large, basically a cryptid. You could single-handedly stoke interest in Bigfoot again, if you're committed to night walks. Sometimes I think I have memories of being SM or exploited as a young child. But I can't ever be sure if the memories are real, and I wouldn't dare ask anyone. Edit, I am shocked and horrified at how many others have similar experiences/suspicions. But the amount of people that feel comfort in knowing they aren't alone has made sharing this post worth it. Wishing you all clarity, peace, and healing. I have the same. I know it happened in some instances, but others are more hazy. Found out that it is almost certain to have happened in one situation, because my cousin confided it happened to her with the same neighbor. So, what I thought was maybe just a dream or something became obviously clear. And later that same neighbor was arrested for CP. I have no idea if any of it was me. Edit, thanks to whomever reported this, or any of the follow-up comments, to Reddit cares. I'm not there yet, but maybe soon. I appreciate the thought, however. Also this thread and all the people in it heartening and disheartening that we are not alone. Healing to all of us. Growing up, I had a recurring nightmare set, in my grandparents' backyard, looking at the back of their house. There was just something off about the house. Something mildly sinister. I dreamt this over and over, many times over the years. In 2018, my dad, who now owned the house, went into the backyard, to that spot, and killed himself. I haven't had the backyard dream since. I had a recurring super vivid intense dream, at like 4. My uncle was chasing us around a labyrinth with a large knife, trying to kill me and my grandmother. 25 or so years later, the same uncle, complete paranoid delusional schizophrenic, murders my grandmother at her condo. With the very nice chef knife I bought her for Christmas the year before. A third of my body is covered in burn scars. When I was 15, I was in a forest area near my school with several friends. We would go here often after school, to talk and hang out before going home for supper. It was also common for us, on colder days, to start a small fire to keep warm. Netherlands is a very wet country, so there is rarely a fear of a fire getting out of hand. However, the boys are another story. Boys always act dumb around fire. One time, when we were in the woods, a boy who had been playing with the fire, had lit a stick, and was walking around with it, like a torch. Somehow the stick or ember fell onto my school bag, hung over one shoulder, and caught fire. This also caught my jacket and hair and skirt on fire as well, as the backpack began to melt from the fire and drip onto my cloths. Everyone panicked, and by instinct I ran back to the school. Running only made the fire worse. I was seen by an adult, a teacher I think, and I was put on the ground and the fire was put out. But much damage had been done already. I was taken towards the hospital, and the school called my parents. I was burned, from the top of my head, down onto the top of my leg, just above my knee. Much of my hair, on one side of my head, was burned away, but because hair burns quickly, there was little damage to my face, more like a bad sunburn, except for on my neck and along my jawbone, where my jacket and backpack burned. My legs were mostly okay too, as the skirt I was wearing was wool, and did not burn easily and was away from my legs. My right arm and body were not, as well, off. Where the jacket was, and where the backpack was, had burned the most and had melted like hot plastic, because they were synthetic material. I was in hospital for many weeks, and had many surgeries over the span of my life, to help the skin grow and to graft skin from my legs, onto parts of my chest and underarm, that were the most damaged. If I wear jeans and a long sleeve shirt, you cannot tell that I have any scars, other than the line of scars that go up my neck on one side. Many times, I can hide those scars with makeup. A very decent young man that worked for me, and who I consider a dear friend, went off to college and was doing some side work. He was burning brush, and he fell into the burn pit, where he also received burns across 70% of his body. He was fortunate however, as he was sent to the U.S. military burn unit, in San Antonio, Texas, where they were able to provide him with the best burn care in the world. It was still a very painful and traumatic experience and expensive, as his dad told me, that some of the bandages were $2,000 per bandage, and had to be replaced daily. He was able to finish his degree and went on to get his master's, but he will not go out in public, without a long sleeve shirt or wear shorts. I asked him, if he thought he would ever lose the self-consciousness of the scars, and he said, that maybe one day, he hoped he would, but that he isn't there, yet. From ages 6 to 14, I spent all of my time in a pitch black, cold and locked basement, only leaving for school and never letting anyone, outside the family, know. I need background information on this, why and why. Where to start? When I was 6, my sister, 16, and I, discovered that my dad, violent, abusive, was effing my mom's sister. My dad proceeded to punch out my mom, when she found out, knocking out some of her teeth. I made the mistake of reporting the event to my teachers the next day. Police go to my dad's work. Dad comes home, pissed off at me for shaming the family. Proceeds to strangle me into unconsciousness. Wake up in the basement, told I can come out when I learn to respect my dad. My only company was a Bible and some school books. I read the Bible every day and prayed for the abuse to stop. Not once did God answer. I constantly think about leaving my current life behind and just living alone, somewhere remote, where no one knows I exist. Odd thing is, I have a really good happy life, and I'd never do it, but I think about it constantly. I have an enlarged aortic root. It's very unlikely, but it could spontaneously rupture, leading to the medical term, adjusts glasses, instantaneous death. I would pass out, bleed to death, and then fall over. Dead before hitting the ground. And it could happen at any time. My wife is very uncomfortable thinking about it, LOL. I'm an alcoholic, gotten so bad, to the point I was in jail, and I was admitted into a psych ward once. My drinking life was wild and destructive. Decided I've had enough. After 2 failed attempts, I'm currently 36 days sober, the most sober I've been in years. I do not actually remember a decent chunk of my life. Whenever I talk about most of my childhood, I use words that leave room for mistakes, and I'm generally using memories and ideas I've compiled from hearing other people say things about me. There is actually a large chunks of facts about myself that I only think I know, and don't have personal confirmation of. I have 2 lenses in my right eye, so it focuses like binoculars. My doctor wrote a paper about it. Mostly blinded, as a baby, in my left eye. Doctor suspected my right lens is split, then healed, as 2 distinct lenses. Better than 20/20 in my right eye. Since I was very young, age 9 or 10, I think, I've had thoughts that I was going to die young. The older I got, the age 24 just kept reoccurring. I'll be 24 in a few months. I have appointments for neurologists, for a suspected brain tumor, coming up. Nothing is certain or set, but this all feels very weird. If it's any comfort, I had the exact same feeling, and a specific age kept reoccurring for me, too. I passed that age, a few years ago. I've considered far more than my wife knows. Was once a serious option in my life, when things got hard, and I felt trapped. Sometimes it's just a casual thought. I'm also a very light fun person in social situations, always trying to make people laugh. But I'm actually really depressed, and can't stand myself a lot of the time. Edit 3, thank you all for your kind words of encouragement. I hope we can all make it through, whatever dark times we may find ourselves in. Edit 2, I have been to therapy, and have been on meds in the past. In between therapists right now, due to an insurance change. And it's challenging to find another therapist, as helpful as my first one. Not really scary or unsettling, but I do end up having to explain, without trying getting into details to people, why I refuse to drink from any kind of retail item that is not translucent, for example, soda/beer cans, milk/OJ cartons, etc. People's curiosity compels them to ask me why, when I tell them to let it be, and assuredly enough, they never like the answer. I had dead mouse parts slide down my throat, chugging a beer, on a golf course. My dad always poured his beer from a glass bottle into a short glass. He once spat out a finger. I'm heavily addicted to opioids and have been for nearly a decade. Absolutely nobody in my life knows. When I go without them, and have withdrawals, I think about ending it all. I don't even do them for the high. I have legitimate pain, and they help massively. The high isn't even much, just makes me feel happier, with not being in pain. I was in this exact situation for this exact reason, for the same exact number of years. Even my husband didn't know. Now I've been clean for 7 years on subs. You can get help, and come out whole. I inherited a lot of money from my grandmother, about 2 years ago, that no one in my family knew existed. I still don't know where it came from, her lawyer wouldn't tell me, but it's in the upper 7 figures. My father, her son, got the flat she owned, and we all thought that was everything she had. Apparently it wasn't, but I haven't told anyone about it and I don't plan on doing so either. I just work a normal 8 to 5 desk job, rent a flat downtown of the city I live in, nothing expensive, and live a normal life on my own. No partner or children, no expensive vacations, I don't even have a car lol. I just don't feel comfortable sharing this secret, and the longer I keep it the stranger it would get telling it. TLDR, I'm a millionaire, because my grandmother died, and no one knows about it. Edit, I'm trying to answer to as many people as possible, but as I said, I still have a normal job, so here are the answers to the most asked questions/suggestions. 1. What do you want to do with the money? I don't know yet, for now it's safe where it is, and I will either use it or invest it once I think it's time. Maybe in a week, maybe never. 2. Can you give me X amount of money? No, it wouldn't be fair to give it to one person and deny it another. I also don't really care about your tragic stories in my DMs, I read them and just get depressed, so please don't. 3. Can I be in your life? No, I also don't want to adopt you / get to know you or be in a relationship with you, except for big titty goth GFs. 4. You have to invest in Bitcoin / real estate / stocks / your friendly neighborhood pyramid scheme. No, F off. I know most of you are genuine, nice people, but I don't want your advice. If this makes me sound like a douche, I'm fine with that, it's just a lot right now. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I talk with myself. Not the usual, you can do it, type of shit. Literally act like I am two people that are having a conversation. I called him G. He is okay. I've never named my other half, it's just me, talking to me, out loud. Done it from a small child. My grandfather was murdered on the res, by a skinhead dude, who serial murdered native people, and dropped them in the wilderness. It took them years to catch him. I was at his execution in another state. He deserved worse than falling asleep peacefully. I was a child mule in Detroit for 3 years. I made more money, in 3 years, than most people will see in a decade. I did some pretty scary stuff, that I won't get into here, that was under coercion. I'm not proud of it. It's scary what I've seen dudes do, over money. I bought my mom a house because her husband was on oxys and gambled her life savings. Made sure my brother and sisters ate. Cash in my mom's glove box every week with a spare key. No questions, no answers. I dipped when stuff got real pressured and scary for me to be promoted. I killed a man outside a bar in the defense of another person. The whole bar saw him drag his girlfriend out by the arm and no one called police or followed. I was just there for dinner and not drinking. I had a legal piece in the car. I holstered up and went looking. Heard screaming from behind the gated dumpster. She was begging. His pants were down. I yelled at him to freeze. I yelled at him to lay down. He pulled his pants up and he had a knife in his hand. The girl was bleeding. He charged me, and I emptied a mag into him, as soon as he wasn't in front of her. Broke my pistol down, put it on the pavement, and called for the cops and an ambulance. Got arrested, but she testified and he was on camera, charging me with a big effing boot knife. I didn't get charged, because she was stabbed, bleeding, being assaulted, and he charged at me with a deadly weapon. I still think about it sometimes. I don't regret it. That was about 10 years ago. My wife and I got married 9 years ago. I've never told her. As far as she knows, I have a close female friend that lives in Alabama. It's not something that comes up in casual conversation. BTW new girlfriend, I killed a dude. Nah, lol. I don't think it was necessary to talk about. I went to therapy and stayed quiet. That girl emails me every once in a while. She's healed, married, and happy. I visited her in the hospital for a while, till her parents got here from Alabama. I went to her wedding a couple years ago. It was beautiful. Nice dude. I don't bother her. Her parents tried to give me some money, but I felt really effing greasy about taking it, so I didn't. Kinda wish I had lately, haha, but still glad I didn't. No one knows I'm on Reddit, or I genuinely wouldn't say any of this here. I said it in some random group chats, during therapy, to get it out, and haven't really mentioned it until now, honestly. Thanks for asking the right question, I guess. I appreciate the platform, lol. Got E. coli poisoning, at age 3, and was about to die, slept for 3 whole ass days, after 8 days of bleeding in and out, and operations, and such. Fact ain't really scary or nothing, but I can never get E. coli poisoning again. I'm immune. Edit, forgot to say, there's also a news article about me, but I probably won't be sharing, because of info people on the internet shouldn't have access to. My dog and my mother died in the same year. I was so devastated when my dog passed. That kind of pain didn't even touch the pain of losing my mom. Partially because she had given up on me and life years before she died. She drank herself to death and got sepsis. My dad killed himself in '02. I'm 38 now. I miss them. I miss my dog more. She was always there for me, through so much illness, and loneliness, and pain. She was my best friend. R.I.P. Edit, I thought my comment might be a little relatable, but I had no idea. I'm so sorry for all of your losses, and thank you for sharing your stories. I also got 2 dogs, after she passed, a few years ago, so I'm all taken care of. They are 2 of the goofiest little dudes, with 1 in a million personalities, just like their sister. I have a tendency to self-isolate. and it's damaged very long-term friendships, because people don't understand that it's not them, it's me, and that I really mean no harm, or have any ill feelings towards them. I just kinda want to recede into my own mind. I feel really bad about it, and keep telling myself to reach out, but I don't. I'm slowly leaving society and don't plan to tell anyone. I purchased a small piece of property, one small cabin, in which I'll live, and a second, that has been remodeled for use as a rental, to subsidize my income. I have 2 years plus of work left and have no intention of telling them either. My parents are both dead, and my brother has been estranged for 2 decades. When I hit my monetary goal, in a couple years, I'm just not showing up for life anymore. I've deleted all socials, aside from Reddit, as I use it for news and information, to stay current until I leave the grid. My phone will also be left behind. I plan to take a laptop to communicate with the rental agency and any issues with renters that may rise, as I plan to act as the caretaker of said rental. TLDR, I'm walking away from it all. Work, friends, any and all obligations. The world tires me, and I see no point in continuing to be part of it on any real scale, and telling no one. I was emotionally abused by my dad. He died of cancer around 6 years ago, and I felt nothing. I felt bad that he was in so much pain. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I just remember waking up the day after he died, and feeling so oddly at peace, when there was no one yelling at me in my doorway. I truly believe his death helped me recover from my eating disorder, and I became so much less suicidal and reclusive after that. When I was 11, I witnessed my stepdad attack my mom. I was in my room, and heard my mom yell/scream, so I left my room to see what happened. When I stepped into the hallway, I could see partly into the kitchen, and she was standing with her back up against the corner of the countertop, with a terrible look on her face, and a swelling cheek. My stepdad was about 5 feet away, with 3 long bleeding scratches down his cheek, from where she retaliated. I guess I didn't know how to react, so I just turned around and went back to my room. That weekend, I spent Friday night at my best friend's house. I knew his older brother had a .38 Chiefs special revolver in a hidden drawer he had built under his waterbed frame. Before I left, I stuffed the gun into my rolled-up sleeping bag. I chickened out that first night, Saturday, but Sunday night, around 2 to 3 a.m. I think, I took the revolver into their room and woke him up by jamming it under his chin. He woke up immediately, and kind of reactively had pulled his head back away from the barrel. I pushed it harder into his throat and said something like, "Don't ever hurt my mom again, or I'll kill you." I don't remember exactly what I said. I do remember feeling like the world was spinning 1,000 miles per hour around me, and that I was weightless. I don't remember anything after saying that to him, until I was back in my room. I dropped the gun on the floor and blurted into the hardest sobbing I have ever experienced. Seemed like it lasted for hours. I don't know how long I actually cried, but when I finally stopped, I was drenched in sweat/tears down my entire front side. I put the gun in my backpack, and snuck it back into that drawer, under the waterbed, 2 or 3 days later, the next time I was at my friend's house. Not a word was ever said about what I did, by me or my stepdad, but as far as I know, he never touched my mom again. They divorced 3 or 4 years later. I run into my friend's brother at a bar, about 10 years later, and I told him about borrowing his gun, thinking he would just laugh it off as me telling drunk bar lies. He did not. He believed me completely, even stated that sometimes, when I was at their house, I would make little comments that his family understood to mean that my home life wasn't great. He's a big biker type guy, and he just grabbed me, pulling me off the bar stool, and hugged me for like 5 straight minutes. He was a great dude. This all sounds overdramatic after reading it back to myself, but it's written exactly as I remember it. Thanks for the chance to share this. Until now, my friend's brother and my stepdad were the only others who knew about it. I sometimes smile and laugh at tragic news/events, especially if I see someone else crying and or is the bearer of bad news. I hate it, however. I think I understand why it happens. It's some sort of trauma defense mechanism, because someone is expecting me to feel saddened and to frown. I don't know if scary, unsettling quite fits here, but if I met you 3 years ago, and then haven't seen you since then, I will remember your name and several random things you told me. I've had to learn to play dumb and act like I don't remember certain things, because it creeps people the F out and gives off a stalkery vibe. though it is useful when I want to screw with someone. I went to a GP in agonizing pain. I vomited around 20 to 30 times consecutively on their restroom floor. I was told it was a UTI. Recovered a little. Next day, was in more pain, and after seeing a couple doctors, I was rushed to hospital for emergency operation on a testicular torsion. I ended up losing one testicle. Spent the night there, before returning home. One day later, I met the love of my life, and never looked back since. But that 2 days of pain was something nobody should have to go through. I pooped in my neighbor's backyard when I was 8 years old. Just gargoyled under his jungle gym and let loose. This is the first I've talked about it in over 20 years.